Every week, millions of people hand over their rent money to a system that mathematically guarantees their loss. The lottery is not a game of chance. It is a poverty extraction machine designed to convert hope into revenue. You are not playing for a jackpot. You are funding a government operation that targets the desperate and calls it voluntary taxation. The odds are not hidden. They are simply irrelevant to the people who need them most. This is not about luck. This is about a deliberate economic trap that has been refined over centuries to make losing feel like participating. Right now, someone you know is spending $50 a week on scratch tickets. That is $2,600 a year. Over 10 years, that is $26,000 with zero compounding interest, zero asset accumulation, and zero escape velocity. The lottery does not sell you a ticket. It sells you a recurring subscription to statistical impossibility. And the cost is not just the money. It is the cognitive bandwidth spent calculating fantasy budgets based on numbers that will never arrive. It is the erosion of the belief that wealth comes from leverage and compounding rather than divine intervention. The lottery convinces the broke that the only path out of poverty is a path that keeps them broke. This mechanism has ancestors. In 18th century England, the government ran lotteries to fund wars and infrastructure. The tickets were expensive, so brokers split them into affordable shares for the working class. The poor bought fractional hope while the state pocketed guaranteed revenue. The psychological hook was identical to today, a small sacrifice for a transformative payout that almost never came. By the early 1800s, lottery fraud and addiction was so rampant that England banned them entirely for over a century. The lesson was clear. Lotteries do not lift people out of poverty. They institutionalize the transfer of money from those who cannot afford to lose it to those who do not need to win it. In the 1930s, during the global economic collapse, illegal lottery networks called numbers games exploded in American cities. These games were run by organized crime, but operated on the same principle. Collect small bets from desperate people, pay out a tiny fraction, and keep the rest. The numbers racket was so profitable that it funded entire criminal empires. When state governments realized they were losing revenue to the black market, they did not shut down the model. They legalized it, rebranded it, and claimed the profits for themselves. The modern state lottery is not a replacement for the numbers game. It is the same extraction system with a government seal. By the 1970s, states facing budget shortfalls began launching lotteries as a way to raise funds without raising taxes. New Hampshire led the charge in 1964. New York followed. Within 2 decades, nearly every state had one. The pitch was always the same. Lottery profits would fund education, infrastructure, and public services. But the reality was different. Lottery revenue did not supplement budgets. It replaced them. Politicians cut traditional funding and redirected lottery money to fill the gaps. The net result was that schools and roads were now funded by the poorest citizens buying tickets instead of the wealthiest citizens paying taxes. The lottery became a regressive tax disguised as entertainment. This brings us to stage 1. Accessibility. The lottery is everywhere. Gas stations, grocery stores, convenience shops. You cannot avoid it. Tickets are cheap. $1, $2, $5. The barrier to entry is so low that it does not feel like a financial decision. It feels like buying gum. But that accessibility is the trap. The easier it is to play, the harder it is to stop. The lottery does not need you to spend $1,000 once. It needs you to spend $10 100 times. The system is designed for repetition, not transformation. And repetition is where the damage compounds. Then comes stage 2, the illusion of control. Scratch tickets give you the tactile sensation of participation. You choose the numbers. You scratch the surface. You reveal the outcome. This creates the psychological belief that you are involved in the result. But you are not. The outcome was determined the moment the ticket was printed. The scratching is theater. The choosing is decoration. Yet this illusion of agency is what keeps people coming back. It transforms a passive loss into an active experience. You are not just losing money, You are playing a game, and games feel winnable even when the math says otherwise. Stage 3 is where the system turns. Intermittent reinforcement. Slot machines use the same principle. You do not win every time. You do not lose every time. You win just enough to keep the hope alive. A $5 ticket pays out $2. A $10 ticket pays out $8. These small wins are not profits. They are bait. They create the sensation of being close, of almost winning, of needing just one more try. Psychologists call this variable ratio reinforcement, and it is the most addictive reward structure known to behavioral science. The lottery does not want you to win big. It wants you to win small, often enough to keep you buying, rarely enough to keep you losing. Stage 4 is the normalization. Lottery advertising does not sell you a ticket. It sells you a narrative. The commercials show ordinary people becoming millionaires overnight. They show families paying off debt, buying homes, quitting jobs. The message is clear. This could be you, but the math tells a different story. The odds of winning a major lottery jackpot are roughly 1 in 300 million. You are more likely to be struck by lightning twice than to win the Powerball. Yet the advertising never mentions odds. It mentions dreams. It mentions freedom. It mentions escape. The lottery is not selling probability. It is selling the emotional state of not being poor. And for people who are actually poor, that emotional state is worth more than the odds. Stage 5 is the budget displacement. People who play the lottery regularly do not treat it as entertainment. They treat it as an investment strategy. This is where the real extraction occurs. A person making $30,000 a year who spends $50 a week on tickets is allocating nearly 9% of their income to a guaranteed loss. That is money that could have gone to an emergency fund, to debt reduction, to skill acquisition, to anything with a positive expected return. But the lottery reframes that spending as hope. And hope, in a system designed to keep you economically immobile, becomes more valuable than strategy. The lottery does not just take your money, it takes the mental space you could have used to build actual wealth. Stage 6 is the lock-in. Once you have been playing for years, stopping feels like giving up. You have already spent thousands. You have already lost thousands. The sunk cost fallacy takes over. What if you stop now and your numbers hit next week? What if the ticket you did not buy was the winner? This is not rational thinking. This is the psychology of entrapment. The lottery has turned your past losses into a reason to keep losing. You are not chasing a jackpot anymore. You are chasing the justification for every ticket you have already bought. The trap is complete. You are not playing to win. You are playing to not feel like a fool for having played at all. Here is the math. State lotteries typically return about 50% of revenue to players in the form of prizes. Casinos, by comparison, return around 90%. That means for every dollar spent on lottery tickets, 50 cents goes to the government, marketing, and administration. The other 50 cents is distributed among a tiny fraction of winners, most of whom win less than they spent. If you play the lottery consistently, you are not participating in a game. You are donating to a system that uses your desperation to fund services that wealthier citizens should be funding through progressive taxation. This is not a conspiracy. This is a business model. The people who play the lottery the most are the people who can least afford it. Studies show that households earning less than $10,000 a year spend an average of $600 annually on lottery tickets. That is 6% of their income. Households earning over $50,000 spend an average of $200. That is less than 0.5%. The lottery is a reverse Robin Hood. It takes from the poor and redistributes a fraction to a few lucky individuals, while the state keeps the majority. The system is not designed to help people escape poverty. It is designed to monetize their inability to escape. Lottery retailers are not randomly distributed. They are strategically placed in low-income neighborhoods. The density of lottery vendors correlates directly with poverty rates. This is not coincidence. This is targeting. The lottery knows where its customers are. It knows that people living paycheck to paycheck are more likely to gamble on a life-changing payout because they see no other route to financial transformation. The lottery does not market to people with options, it markets to people without them, and it does so with the full endorsement of the state. The education funding promise is a lie. When states claim lottery profits go to schools, they rarely mention that traditional school funding is cut proportionally. The lottery does not add money to education budgets. It replaces stable tax revenue with volatile gambling income. In years when lottery sales decline, school funding declines. In years when lottery sales increase, legislators redirect the surplus elsewhere. The net effect is that schools become dependent on the poor buying tickets instead of the rich paying taxes. The lottery is not funding your child's education. It is shifting the tax burden onto the people least able to bear it. This is where the promise turns into a leash. You are told the lottery benefits society. You're told it funds schools, parks, veterans programs. But that narrative exists to justify the extraction. If the lottery were actually about funding public goods, the state would simply tax wealth and distribute it. Instead, the state has created a voluntary tax that the poor pay disproportionately while the rich avoid entirely. The lottery is not a public service. It is a poverty tax with a marketing budget. The survival payoff is simple. First, treat lottery spending like any other expense. Track it. Write it down. Most people who play the lottery have no idea how much they spend annually because the purchases are small and frequent. Visibility kills the habit. Second, redirect that spending into any instrument with a positive expected return. A high-yield savings account, an index fund, a certification course. The lottery gives you a 1 in 300 million chance of transformation. Saving and investing give you a 100% chance of incremental improvement. Third, reframe the emotional need. If you are buying lottery tickets because you feel hopeless, the problem is not the ticket, the problem is the lack of a realistic financial strategy. The lottery is not hope. It is the commodification of hopelessness. The system will not change because the system is profitable. State governments collected over $90 billion in lottery revenue in recent years. That is more than corporate income taxes in many states. The lottery is now a structural pillar of government finance. Politicians will not kill it. Regulators will not reform it. The only way out is personal refusal. You do not need to quit the world. You need to stop playing this game on their terms. The lottery is not a game. It is a financial trap built on statistical illusion and psychological manipulation. It preys on desperation, normalizes losing, and extracts wealth from the people who have the least to give. The odds are not in your favor. The system is not designed to lift you up. It is designed to keep you participating while your money flows upward. The people who run the lottery are not hoping you win. They are counting on you to lose. And they have built an entire infrastructure to make sure you do. If this opened your eyes to the cage you are living in, subscribe. Because in the next video, we dismantle the rest of the illusion.